This video is how to make American barbecue sauce, at least my favorite recipe, which is a honey barbecue sauce with a little bit of Belgium thrown in. It's really difficult to find good, not weird, sweet, awkward, sort of sweet and soury barbecue sauce. So I went ahead, did a little bit of research, talked to my stepdad, who's fantastic at this sort of thing, and came up with my own recipe for barbecue sauce. So the tools that we need, really important, is a decent sauce pot, soup pot, and we absolutely positively must have a whisk. The base of this sauce is ketchup and vinegar, plain normal vinegar. I've taken the liberty of already mixing my ketchup and vinegar in this little pot here, and it's 250 milliliters, or 1 cup of each of those things. So a cup of vinegar and a cup of regular old tomato ketchup. So I'm going to add that first to my pot. And I do want to make sure that everything comes out. So of course I have my spatula here, because we can't do without our spatula. Just got a little ketchup stuck in there. Alright, so there's my ketchup and my vinegar. Now you can add the other ingredients in any order. It doesn't matter, because the goal here is just to cook them together for quite some time. So I'm going to start then with another ½ a cup of honey. Now that's going to be about 125 milliliters. I'm not sure what it is in grams, unfortunately. And you can just plop that in there for now. We are going to mix it up together, but we don't have to worry about that until all of our ingredients are safely in the pan. So there is the honey. Now, this next ingredient is a little bit tricky to find in Belgium. You can find it at international food stores like Stone Manor, which is where I get mine. And there is a difference between dark or black treacle and black strap molasses, which is what I use. So this is ½ a cup, or 125 milliliters of molasses. I will say molasses is similar to the stuff that you find in Belgian supermarkets called kandijsiroop, the donker version of kandijsiroop. However, the syrup that you find in Belgian supermarkets is thinner and sweeter. So you actually have to be really careful. You can't substitute that stuff for molasses. You just got to have molasses to get a good barbecue sauce. But I said that in my barbecue sauce I added a taste of Belgium, and that is very true. I really like that candy syrup that you can get from Belgium, and so I added a couple tablespoons of that syrup to my recipe. Belgians will be familiar with it. If you're from the States and you can't find this stuff, it's no big deal. You just leave it out. But that is what I have added to this barbecue sauce to give it a little Belgian flair. So that's all of our liquid ingredients. The next thing that we need to add, I'm just going to set that in there since I got it dirty. The next things that we need to add are our spices and seasonings. There's not very many of them, actually. Because there's salt in the ketchup, we don't usually add a lot of salt. We can add that later if we need it. I do have one special U.S. ingredient that can be left out, but boy is it delicious, and that is liquid smoke. They also used to sell something at Oil and Vinegar that was like this smoky African spice mix. I used to add that in here as well when I couldn't get liquid smoke, and oh, it was so good. We're going to add about a teaspoon of this liquid smoke. You have to be really careful because it's super strong, and if you over add, ooh, it will not be good news. So I'm just going to add about 5 milliliters, about a teaspoon of liquid smoke to my barbecue sauce. No more, for certain. The only other 2 spices that I want to use today is some cayenne pepper, and I'm going to use ½ a teaspoon of that, which is about 2.5 milliliter measuring spoon. I don't want my barbecue sauce to be too spicy, but I want to add some there. You know what? I'm going to be daring, and I'm going to add a whole teaspoon. ½ a teaspoon if you want a little spice, a whole teaspoon if you want a lot. Because you can also use a teaspoon of Tabasco sauce. I just don't happen to have any Tabasco on me today. And then finally we're going to add some garlic powder. We're going to add a whole teaspoon of that as well. And I love garlic, so I'm gonna heat my teaspoon, or my ½ teaspoons to get my full teaspoon. I'm using the littler spoon instead of the full teaspoon because it fits into the jar. Now that is completed barbecue sauce. So what we're going to do is very slowly, because of our liquids are so thick, we're going to start just to slowly mix together until we can do it without splashing ourselves. And then all that we're going to do is let this sit to cook. We want to bring it to a boil, so probably over medium-high heat while stirring all the time. And then once it's boiling, we just want to cook it uncovered for about 45 minutes. We're going to reduce the heat, but we still want it to be bubbling, kind of like when we cook rice or something like that. We want it to simmer because some of the water is going to evaporate out of the sauce and make it thicker for us. And you cook it until it's as thick as you want it to be. If you like your barbecue sauce to be thicker, then you just let it cook for a while until it gets to the thickness you like. If you accidentally forget about your barbecue sauce and you get it too thick, then it's really easy to correct by just adding a little bit of vinegar at the end. So this is nearly mixed up. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. So now what we're going to do is, I hadn't turned on my oven yet, or my stove yet, I didn't want to. Now I'm going to turn on my stove to medium-high. And we're just going to make sure that we're watching this, that we stir every now and again, so that it doesn't burn to the bottom until we get our nice bubbles. And then we can reduce the heat and let it cook. We have got a great boil going here, so I have already, as I reapproach the stove, turned down my settings to medium-low. And now we're going to let this bubble like this for about 45 minutes. All that steam is the water being released from the sauce, and that's what's going to make it thick for us. So we'll see how this goes in 45 minutes. So we rejoin our barbecue sauce about 45 minutes later, and as you can see, the bubbles are showing that it's much, much thicker now, and this is absolutely perfect. Once it cools down, it's even going to be a little bit thicker than that. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the temperature. A great way to tell if your barbecue sauce is as thick as you might want it to be is if you dip a spoon in there and a layer of the sauce stays on the spoon, then it's absolutely perfect. I'm also going to try the barbecue sauce really quickly to make sure there's nothing I need to add. It's wonderfully sweet and tangy. I do think it needs just a touch of salt. I'm going to find my salt real quick and just sprinkle a little bit of this in. I don't want to overdo it. And then mix that in, and I might try it one more time. But other than that, folks, that is Dani's barbecue sauce. Enjoy.